Welcome to the Chief Aim podcast. This is your weekly dose of real experiences, insights, strategies, and action steps for entrepreneurs who want to build and are building something incredible.
Welcome back to another episode of the Chief Aim podcast. I'm Sebastian Bates.
I'm Jason Graystone.
Today we're going to be talking about pressure versus balance. So we're going to be diving into the subject of work-life balance. Jason, work-life balance. Do you feel like you've got work-life balance?
I feel like I value the work that I do, and therefore I want to do as much of it as I possibly can. Therefore, I'll build everything around my life so that I can do that most of the time, and then and less of the other things. So, the idea of work-life balance compared to what most people think, it's not balanced, I guess.
Yeah.
My if I love doing a particular project or work, I don't want to then have to stop that just to go and do something so that I feel like I'm, I'm then pulled away from doing something that I really love to do something that I don't love. So it's much better to, in my opinion, to figure out how you can have all the things that are meaningful to you in your life and have everyone on board, and there's balance in everyone's part of that play, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So like wife, do what you want and do what you love most of the time. Kids, do what you love most of the time. And then have incorporating a thread of communication and quality time around that. Obviously fitness and things like that. There's certain disciplines that you've got to have if you want to maintain a healthy life and stuff like that. But really, my opinion is you want to skew it all towards doing most of the thing that you love doing, and then try and get a not a balance around everything else, but get it to work and work well. So it's a really delicate topic because everyone seems to beat themselves up that they are not doing this or they need to do more of that. And one of the biggest ones is I need to be easier on myself. I need to give myself rest, and I need to give. When I'm not working, I don't feel like I'm resting. I feel like I'm resting when I'm working. I feel like I'm resting.
Interesting.
Like if I go on holiday, I get stressed sitting there with nothing because I'm resting.
I don't know. You didn't seem too stressed the other day when you were on holiday.
My heart rate is much more at rest.
To be fair, you were working for like 5 days though. You're working every day, so no wonder you were relaxed.
Yeah, right. Come on, we recorded 11 podcasts or something.
That's rookie numbers.
That's my opinion.
I knew I wasn't going to get a yes/no answer. That's why I thought I'd ask you straight off the cuff. My view on it is this, right? I think what actually is work-life balance? Well, it's a balance between work life and personal life, right? And is there equilibrium between the two? And my immediate thought is, well, that's completely subjective to whoever's deciding on the balance, right? And people who say you've either got balance or you haven't got balanced, when they look at your life and where you spend your time, they are looking at that through the lens of their own values, right? So they will look at you and say, if they really prioritize health and fitness and being in great shape and diet and nutrition, they don't prioritize family life or business, they might look at what you're doing when you spend 90% of your time doing business and family and only a tiny bit of time doing the health and fitness and high performance in the gym type stuff, and say you're lacking so much balance. You don't have the balance between the two, right? Yeah. So for me, it's a very subjective concept. What is balance for one person isn't balance for someone else. And when I think about work-life balance, I think, where does it actually come from? Well, I think it came from COVID. I think it all started to really pick up momentum from COVID, when people were they were looking at their lives and they were saying, actually, I've been furloughed and I don't really enjoy what I'm doing, and now I'm happier. Well, no, of course you're happier when you're not doing what you weren't enjoying. But the reality is, it was only people who weren't necessarily enjoying their life or their where they were spending their time that suddenly felt this overwhelming sense of work-life balance. And from that point on, it was like we need to prioritize, all the other things that we had during lockdown. And
But the other side of that, Seb, the other side of that was the people that had been at work in offices and come home, and then the other partner now sees that there's a grey area between where their work ends and where their personal life starts. So it's like, so again, their perception, because you could be out at the office till 10 o'clock at night and you're a hero. As soon as you start working from home and you decide to go in the office, all of a sudden you're ignoring the family. So it's a complete, so instead of going from like this hero, it's like now, you can choose to spend time with us because you're at home, but you're choosing to go in there, right? So it's really like, it's not about balance. It's basically balance in the appreciation of others for what you do and your appreciation for what they do. So, and that has to be at equilibrium. So it's like you have to appreciate what someone else is doing. And when you say a divide between work and personal, everyone's goal is to get paid for doing what they love. So your work becomes your personal life. Like that is the goal. You should be getting paid for your personal life.
I feel like we live in a world where it's possible more than ever. Not saying you should be an entrepreneur, because that's not the case. For a lot of people, they shouldn't. They definitely shouldn't be entrepreneurs. But for a lot of people listening to this who have jobs or employed, whatever it is, now more than ever, you have the ability to pursue something you're passionate about. Right? Back in the day, you would be born into a family of bakers and you would become a baker, right? Or a plumber, or an electrician, or a builder, or in the army,
a doctor,
a cobbler, whatever it is, right? Like you would be born into the family business and then that's what you'd have to do, and that's it. That's 40, 50 years of work, and then that's you done. Now you've got so many options available to you. If you genuinely feel that you're seeking work-life balance, it's highly likely that you're not doing something that's aligned with your values for the majority of your time that you're working. And I think that if you do start to prioritize the way in which you work and make sure it's aligned with your values and what you actually want from life, then I think you're in a much, much happier place, right? I heard something the other day, which was happiness is defined by the number of good days you have in a row where you're feeling happy, right? And a lot of that comes down to where you choose to spend your time, and that comes down to a decision you make by seeking the work, because I think work's actually, a massively important part of life, right? Service, of contribution, and it makes people very happy to do that. But making sure that's aligned with actually what you want to do, right? And if you want to do it, it will feel balanced.
Yeah. I think it's so imbalanced because of the pressure we put on ourselves to find the balance. So I'll give you an example. As I said before, like I think it is just the balance of appreciation in your life from the people in your life. So let's just give it a real example. Let's just say that it's you in your house and you're the business person, right? Because I'm talking to people who listen to this podcast, so I assume you're the business, you're the entrepreneur, you're the driven, you love working, and you want to hustle and work this thing out and get it, that consumes most of your thoughts, right? You've then got your wife or husband who's the opposite and loves the family, but they also love the life that you're providing, and they love the security, and they're very family oriented, and they love the home. And then maybe you've got a couple of kids, and they're usually opposites as well. One will love spending, one will be compassionate and empathic, and love the family, and one will just be like, self-independent on their own, kind of doing their own thing. With those four people in your household, what we seem to just put on ourselves is, I need to spend more time with them doing something. I need to spend more time with that kid or my partner. In actual fact, just having appreciation for what they do and what's important for them, and then them knowing what's important to you, and they value that, and then finding that balance there between, meeting them where they're at while they meet you where they're at, and just making sure that everyone understands the importance of everyone's role in that family. And then the pressure just instantly drops off. It's like, I do this so that you can do that, and I'm fully appreciative that you do that so I can do this. And when you get that match, and it does take work. It takes a lot of conversations. It takes a lot of trial and error. But when you get it, there's like this harmonious balance that goes on the inside, but from the outside, it looks like a crazy imbalance. It's like, well, you're doing all this stuff, but actually we've got one of the most like balanced appreciations, which makes us very happy and allows us to focus on what we're doing rather than beat ourselves up for not doing
do you know
things
what,
that
though?
no one cares about.
It's like it's going to be so hard for people to ever find that balance if they're with the wrong partner. The person you choose to spend the rest of your life with has such a massive influence on everything in your life, your success, your failure, your balance, like everything. You know, if they and it's likely that for a lot of people, they won't understand this. I think it's almost, unfortunately, the reality is it's kind of a unicorn relationship. You know, to find someone who doesn't place their kind of understanding of balance on you without appreciating what is balance for you, and vice versa. You know, I think it takes a lot of stripping back the ego. And being really honest from the very beginning, this is what I value the most and what I like spending my time. And because I put so much into that, I'm now able to give you more when I am present. Do you know what I mean? It's that harmonious relationship. But it kind of leads the conversation now to pressure, right? Because work-life balance, we actually really struggled to label this episode. We came up with a few interesting titles. One of them was high pressure versus low pressure. I tried to push that option. Jason wasn't having any of it. So I went into ChatGPT and I was like, give me some ideas. They said work-life balance versus work-life imbalance. That didn't really come across too well either. So we went with this one and said work-life balance versus pressure. And essentially what it comes down to, the kind of opposite of what people would see as balance, is high pressure. And rarely, I feel, is anything great achieved in life without high pressure, right? Like if you want to do well in sports, or well academically, or well in your business, or well in your job, or even well in your family sometimes, right? You know, you've got to go through a stage where you put higher levels of pressure on yourself and have less balance in your life in order to achieve it, right? Like anything in life, the way I see it is this: as a person, you can leverage time, money, or effort, right? And if you want to grow as a person, you've got to leverage 1, 2, or all 3 and put more pressure on them in order to escape what is the kind of standardized level you're at, right? So by placing more pressure on the leveraged options that you've got of those 3, time, money, and effort, you're able to surpass the average around you, right? So a lot of people who hate pressure and give pressure a really bad rep, it's because they don't appreciate what pressure actually does for people. They're just looking at the downside, and they want the upside without any of the downside. They want all the nice things and the safety, the security, and the benefits of life, but they want it without any of the difficult times, the struggle, the extra hours of work, working when you're tired, the extra money it might cost you to do that, the extra time, effort, or energy, right? And so for me, it's a case of pressure is a good thing. But understanding when that pressure, like putting pressure not just on working hard, but also putting pressure on recovering hard, right? So people look at training, for instance, they want to get in great shape, and all they think about is, right, I'm going to put all the pressure on working hard and training hard and nutrition fine, but then they miss out a key concept, which is recovery. And you see a lot of people just like their recovery day is just not really doing much, when they should really be doing some active recovery, doing some stretching, eating right, doing ice baths, whatever it is. Stretching, it's like, you put the pressure on different elements of your life based on how far you want to reach with it. And so for me, pressure is one of those things that is a complete necessity. And obviously I work with a lot of young people, I work with a lot of parents, and within a lot of schools. We worked in over 100 schools in the UK and about 30 here. And the reality is the society is all about removing pressure from everyone's lives without really appreciating the fact that we will never do anything great without lots of pressure. So really, it's an empowerment piece, because ultimately it comes down to, rather than removing pressure from young people's lives, it should be about empowering them to handle high pressure so that they can go out there and do incredible things without getting mental health challenges, depression, or feeling burnout. It should be equipping people with the skills to manage high stress situations so they can perform at a very high level. That's it.
This is a quick shout out to the sponsor of this show, Shield, who help us deliver this podcast along with all the social media that goes with it to help us get it out to more people, which leaves us to focus on just creating more great conversations. If you want to start, delegate, or optimize your social media or podcast, or if you want to build your very own online course or program, get in touch with the team at shieldglobal.io. Yeah. I've done many episodes of my other podcasts and my show on this, and I've spoken about this at events where I just say, like, you only feel pressure as a mechanism for doing something that you don't want to do. So if you're in a corporate job and your boss is pressuring you to hit a deadline, you'll feel the pressure because you probably don't want to do it. No one is going to put pressure on you to grow and succeed in something other than yourself or a mentor that's, someone who's saying, right, you need to do this if you want to do, and they're looking out for your best interest. That sort of pressure isn't negative pressure. It's the only way you're going to grow. Like, you have to put your pressure on yourself to grow because not one person in the world is going to pressure you to succeed or grow in the right direction, right? You're only going to feel pressure when it's something you don't want to do. Even going back to the balance situation in the family, if you feel pressured that you're not, I'm feeling under pressure that I'm not spending time with them, then you haven't conveyed there isn't that appreciation there for the balance of what you're both doing. So, that's something that you feel pressure because you don't want to be pulled away from it. That's why you feel pressure. If you did want to be pulled away, the pressure wouldn't be there. So my take has always been this: growth only comes from pressure, and you must have the accountability to put pressure on yourself to grow in a direction because no one else is going to. Everyone else will only put pressure on you to not make you grow. They'll make you do something you don't want to do because that's when you feel pressure. So that's
wow.
That's my take on it.
That's really interesting, actually, isn't it? Say that one more time. So give me that one line again.
So you only feel you will never grow, right? No one is going to put pressure on you to grow in the direction you want to grow, other than you or a mentor. Anyone else putting pressure on you is you're feeling that pressure because it's something you don't want to do, and therefore you're feeling pressure.
Yeah.
So
if it's something you wanted to do, you would kind of be doing it, right? It's like
you might feel excitement and a little bit anxious to push the boundaries, but pressure is
it wouldn't be a
really
negative pressure. It wouldn't be a negative pressure. Great example is a kid playing an Xbox, right? They're enjoying it. They feel aligned to it. They wake up in the morning wanting to do it. You don't need to pressure them. They wouldn't feel pressure to do it. But if you said to them, right, I need you to play 8 hours every day, they would be like, oh, okay, well, that's a lot, but I'll do it, right? For me, it's like I kind of see the same way with building a business. It's like you feel that excitement and maybe some anxiety around performing well with it, but it's not a case of you feel like this is too much pressure or too high pressure. I don't know. I think it's a value thing. If you really value it, if it's within your values, you have a very different approach to it mentally.
Yeah, all these things are mechanisms, and you should listen to them. If you feel a certain way, you're not really being true to yourself. So if you feel like it's pressure's put onto you by other people and telling you that you should slow down, be easy on yourself, give yourself a rest, give yourself a thing, and then you've got pressure of people telling you to have a rest. And that's not going to help you grow. It might help you grow if you're burning yourself out, but again, it's just usually pressure is just this thing that is put onto us to make ourselves feel bad or we should be doing something we don't want to do. If you don't have that, you don't have pressure.
Do you know what? It's almost like the whole kind of concept around your friends rarely want what's good for you. They want what's good for them, so that you remain you remain the person
not as a threat.
Right, and you remain the person that fits the description of the friend that they want, right?
Yeah.
And so often a friend will put pressure on you to say you haven't got work-life balance, or you're doing too much of this or too much of that, because it's out of their values, and you're starting to break the mold of what they would expect you to be, the box that they had mentally kind of put you in, right? It's like, the classic... you've suddenly lost weight and now you prioritize your health and your training and your fitness. So you eat healthy, you're not going out and drinking as much, and you're training every day and you're committing more time to it. And people say, "Oh, I think you should slow down now. You're getting a bit obsessed." you know,
have a drink, have a kebab, have a burger,
have a kebab. It's getting a bit too, you know, a bit too much. I think you're going too far.
You're getting too thin.
It's like you just kind of started. You know, one of the funny things that my PT he said to me, and a lot of people come to him and they're like, you know, I want to get bigger, right? They want to put on more muscle. A few weeks into it, they're like, you know, I think I should slow down. I don't want to put too much muscle on, as if they've suddenly put kilograms worth of lean mass on overnight, right? And the reality is, you know, it takes a long time to actually make a massive impact in any area of your life, right? But people around you start coming out with these little comments, and you can start to really spot it. And I think pressure is no different. Work-life balance and the label that people give with that is no different. But I do feel like a lot of people have this huge amount of pressure from society in general, saying that they shouldn't pursue their work, their career, their business as hard because they don't have that balance. And that often comes from their own negativity around how they kind of prioritize things within their own life.
Exactly.
But the reality of that, right, is if you just get your head down and you do what's closest to your values and ignore the pressure around you, you'll overtake everyone around you. Because a lot of people are listening to this advice. They're listening to this kind of, you know, you're going to get burned out. You don't get burned out doing something you love.
You don't. Right? You really don't. The
you
time goes quick. The days go quick. Like,
days. Like, you know, I remember during COVID, right? I mean, I was locked in this very room and I was working 18 hours a day. I wasn't getting burnt out. I was loving it. I was, you know, you get burnt out and you get tired and you get stressed when you're doing something that's against your values. If I was in here and I wasn't creating products and services and doing things I loved and, you know, serving our community and our members, and instead I was just answering customer service emails or doing something which I didn't enjoy, right? Like stacking paperwork or, you know, I would be, give me 3 hours of that and I'd be stressed, right? So it's, let alone 18 hours.
And look, mate, you didn't have pressure because you had a balanced appreciation in your family as to what needed to be done and why, right? So there was no pressure there. That's the pressure. Let me just take your example of going to the gym, right? So here's the difference between negative pressure, positive pressure. Let's just say that you're looking up to all these Instagram models on Instagram and you go to the gym because you feel like you should go to the gym, and there is a pressure on you to go to the gym even though you bloody hate it and you can't think of anything worse, right? So you try and go and get muscles and abs and all that crap, and it's purely because, you know, you're doing it out of, and you feel pressured to go there and you hate it and you become more and more miserable. Flip that round. Let's just say that you really, really want to have a great body and it's something that you know, it's a goal of yours, and you go there, you have to put pressure on yourself to go to the gym. You have to. No one else is going to press you. No one else is going to go, right, get up now, let's go to the gym, let's get in the thing. You've got to go and do it. You've got to go and pay the PT to make you do it or whatever. But you're essentially putting that pressure on yourself just for you, not for other people. So you don't feel the pressure. It's like, yes, I want to get in there. I want to do this. I want to, you know, I'm going to get the results. So that's the same activity, but one is like negative pressure from people from you feeling like you should be doing it to I want to do it. That's the difference.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I think that's great advice, and we can probably conclude there, really, couldn't we? Pressure, good or bad? Neither. That's the answer.
No, it's just
like most things in life. There's no black and white. It's just a big grey area. And like Jason says, you know, if you're experiencing pressure, it's probably because you're doing something that you don't want to do. If you don't think you've got work-life balance, it's probably because you know it's not the work that you love doing, and that's an indicator of what you might want to change in your life. You know,
or you haven't got a balanced appreciation in your little circle there of what everyone's role is and what you're doing. You know, and
rather than giving advice on this, we love to finish with like 3 points, right, or 3 tips. I think we should finish this with 3 questions you should ask yourself if you're wondering if you've got balance or, you know, if you should have the pressure or whatever. So the first kind of question there is if you're wondering if you've got work-life balance, is what you're doing day in, day out from a time perspective aligned with your values, and could you see yourself doing it for the rest of your life? That's the first question I'd ask. What question would you ask on this? Yeah,
the second one is, when I feel pressure of imbalance or I should be doing something else, are you giving that person what they need to be fulfilled in themselves as well? And is that equal to how much they appreciate what you're doing as well? because you might find that there's a little anomaly or a little imbalance where you go, do you know what? I am doing all this and they are supporting me, but actually I could actually do some of this whilst giving them what they want. We could go and do this family thing, or we can do this, or we can set aside some time to do that, and then then there's a close cut. I stop doing this, I go and do that, and I fully engage in that, and and it might just be something. That's
brilliant
little
advice, actually, mate. The one of the things I've found, right, is it's quality over quantity.
Definitely.
Your kids don't care about your time; they care about your presence. Right, so the way I see it is, your kids don't care about your time.
All this phone stuff, man. It's like
they care about your presence. Yeah. And the cool thing about kids is, that when they see you on your phone, they don't think you value the people on your phone more than them, because they're still young. But as they get older, they will. And so the great thing about kids is you've got this ability to put it down and give them your full focus. And they're very black and white kids. They'll just tell you to come off your phone because they want something from you. They want you to appreciate their time. But for me, one of the things that you were saying is like appreciating the time and making sure it's black and white with that. And I think one of the best things I've done is booked out specific slots, so you don't have this grey crossover period, right? Because I do a lot of my work from home, so it's like, my wife can see my calendar on her phone, so she knows exactly what I'm doing work, that sort of stuff. And she'll make sure that it's the kids aren't too noisy when that goes on, or she'll try and plan trips away with the kids and stuff when I'm doing those work slots, so I can kind of fully focus and fully immerse myself on that area of my life which needs me. And then with the family stuff, that's also in there, right? So I know exactly, I can fully immerse myself and not do any business stuff when I've got those family slots in the calendar. And when you actually look at your calendar and you plot in family time, training time, business time, whatever it is, friendship time, with your social circle, whatever it is, right? And then you fully dedicate to being present in those moments, you start to get to that level of appreciation for each other. Definitely. And then the balance just emerges. It's just there because you've deliberately planned it. You've constructed it.
Yeah. And you find, I've done an episode on this before where it's like you find that they just want to do what they want to do as well. Like, they don't want to spend every minute with you. Kids don't want to spend every minute with you. My kids, like, if I say, do you want to come to the thing? They're like, no, I'm playing and doing this, or I'm on the call, I'm going out with my mates or whatever. They don't want to, right? But what we find is, by telling ourselves, I've got to spend as much time with my family as possible, what we find is that everyone ends up in this like state of flux where they feel like they should be spending more time. Actually, this person doesn't want to spend any time with you, and that person doesn't want to spend any time with you because they're doing what they want to do in that particular time, right? And if everyone's opposite in your family, they're all going to be doing different things, and they're all going to have interest in different things. So
the funny thing is this: like, if you said to your wife, your partner, anyone listening to this, how much time do you want to? How much quality time would you like to spend with me every day or every week? Right? They would say something
it'll be no more than an hour or 2 hours or something like that. Honestly,
maybe for you, mate. I don't know. 1 hour a week is fine. They might be like, right, a couple of hours a day, right?
Yeah.
Now, if you said, right, I'm gonna give you guaranteed quality time, no phone, nothing, no distractions, 2 hours every day, I guarantee that would be better than what you're currently doing. Because for most people, they're probably half-arsing about 4 or 5 hours a day, right? They might see them for an hour in the morning.
Like,
and then in the evening,
I see it on all the time.
Netflix, or movies on, and they're not really talking. They're eating, but they're on their phones. But if you booked in the slots and did like a 45-minute slot or whatever, as weird as that might sound, you might find that the quality is so good and your relationship improves, right?
So true. One of the questions I always ask people when I work with them on their finances, I say, what's your goal? And they say, I'd love to spend more time with my family. And I say, well, how much? And they go, well, more time, like as much as I can. And I say, well, if I spent every minute with my family, I'd end up in prison. I don't want to spend every minute with anyone.
Well, like, COVID was a great example of that. Exactly. Everyone was like, yeah, amazing. Exactly. We're going to spend so much time together. It's great. First week, it's World War III. Right, people were getting divorce rate went through the roof. People were going crazy. You had all these mental health challenges. A lot of it, people just aren't used to being in the same room together for that amount of time. Even family, 20, 30 years, people have lived together. First few months of COVID, they get divorced. because they're just like, oh my God, I didn't realize.
One of our basic human needs is like privacy as well. Like we just want some privacy. So if you're with someone all the time, it's not realistic, and they don't want to be with you all the time either.
The grass is always greener, though, right? Like you always want what you can't have, and so if you're busy working, you would crave that time. But I think just some perspective and awareness of actually there is a balance to be had here, and that is a balance of both things, depending on your values and your partner's values. So I guess the final bit of advice, if I could chip in with one more question, it would be, how much time would you like to spend with your family or your partner, and how much time do you want to spend in your work? Ask your partner the same thing. And then try and find a middle ground, and then actually book it in. That would be the final thing I would say on this.
And that's it. You'll relieve all the pressure, all the work-life balance will go away, and it will just be right. Let's cook. Let's get on with it.
There you go. We might have saved some marriages with this one, Jason.
I hope so. I hope so.
All right, cool, awesome stuff.
Yeah.
We'll finish off there.
Let us know what you think, guys, and we'll catch you next week. Take care. If you're enjoying these podcasts, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an episode. And if you're really getting value from these, we'd really love it if you could let us know on our review page. We'll see you next week.